All right. Okay. Hi. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me once again for this episode of Carnatic Angst. I have with me once again my teacher, friend, mentor, Gokul. Hi, Gokul. Thank you so much for joining me again on another episode.
Hi Vivek, nice to be part of this episode series, this discussion series again.
Fantastic. Yeah, really looking forward to this one. So today I think we agreed to discuss mAnamE bhUshaNamu, this padam in sankarAbharaNam. Do you want to say who the composer is?
Yeah, the composer as written is Govindasamy Ayya.
Yeah, Govindasamy Ayya. And we were discussing this in class like a few weeks ago. And I was
Right.
just so deeply taken by the beauty of this padam, the vastness of it, the slowness, the speed, and really the chance for a student to practice all the different aesthetics, the vibrato, the gamaka, all the different things that we can incorporate in many other compositions of sankarAbharaNam as well. That really caught my eye. Obviously, I'm sure we'll get to discussing that, but that's why I decided to do this one. So does that sound good?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
in particular, there are a lot of phrases in this padam that one can incorporate while doing Naraval. We have discussed this high approach to singing compositions, but even Naraval
Can you
singing.
say what high is once again for
So
people who haven't heard the prior
relaxed
episode?
approach, relax, give the space, give a lot of our guru says odukal chedukal, right? That is, it should not really fall on the beat, like try to be a little off beat, so keep it very melodically flowing,
Right.
flowy nature, especially in the slower speed.
Right.
So that and
Yeah.
the
So some characteristics of high would be, so you said definitely slower gait, taking your time with gamakas. For
right,
example, if there is a long slide, like a jaru, for example, a long
right,
slide, you don't need to go from the top note or the bottom note to the other note quickly. You can explore the space in the middle for
correct,
more.
correct.
That's one characteristic. The other is like odukal sadukal would be like, yeah, not falling on the beat. That seems really key to this approach. The other is like I think like an elephant type of,
Exactly.
like there is a royalty to it.
Majestic,
Like
majestic gait.
I'm unhurried. I am the sovereign. Like I'm not moved by the mridangam or the violin. Like are not moving me. I'm not hurried in one way or the other. I'm not trying to get to the end. I'm like exploring the space of what is already here.
Right,
That attitude. So yeah,
right,
just for whoever hasn't heard that,
right.
we have discussed it
Actually,
before, but just wanted to, for the benefit of the audience, recap that. Go ahead.
right. No, and one small additional comment there. So you said you are the sovereign, not affected by whoever is playing or singing or performing with you. Not only that, you're not affected by anything in this
Exactly.
approach. So that is
Yeah,
the
I think that just came out of my
wonderful
mouth. I
thing.
just meant like not affected by, even if there's an audience in front of you that's like this, like I guess everything comes into the, you can't be completely divorced from what is around you, right? Obviously,
Right,
but
right.
I guess the way to put it is like it doesn't topple you, right?
Correct,
High,
correct.
high is like you are the
You are in
sovereign.
full control of yourself.
Yeah, and
Correct.
the song is taking on its own gate, and you're
Exactly,
just you're just there in it. It's like
exactly,
this
exactly, exactly.
river that is cut through the mountain. அப்படியே அது
Right,
பாட்டுக்கு போயிட்டு இருக்கு. It's got its own gate there. Anyway,
right.
yeah. So you were saying something about the high approach for this particular padam.
Yeah,
Where that's where I took this detour into high itself. But please
right.
go ahead on that one.
No, so you see in this padam when we sing it that there is a lot of the gamakams that you mentioned, like jarus will be like they will they'll be in a the proportion, the time that you spend in the jaru will be very aesthetic. Likewise for all these kampita gamakams, the vibratos and all that will be really aesthetic in this padam. It's a very nice in my opinion, introductory padam. So once a student has like learned many compositions, some weighty compositions and all that, and then when they're slowly getting introduced to this gait, this approach, the slower paces and all that, so then at that point, introducing this padam can be a very very appropriate thing to do. And yeah, so I think with that we should probably move on to the composition itself, and
Sounds
then
good.
there are a lot of things that are specific to this composition. will come out as we sing.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, with the introductory thing, the only comment I want to say before we start singing, and I think maybe you can start with the Pallavi, right?
Yeah.
I was going to say is like, so I haven't learned a lot of padams. Like generally, if you look at the full repertoire of like big padams, medium padams, chinna padams, small padams, but I think what really struck me about this padam is like this. Even though it is not too big, there is vast opportunity to really practice all the hard work that goes into the, training the voice, and it's not too complicated that you have to, you have to focus on the material instead of the the aesthetics and it is small
Exactly.
enough that you can forget about all the complicated padam part and then just focus on the craft of
Correct.
okay, how to give the kampitam properly, how to give the jaru properly, how to give the slides, the vibrato, the odukal, the high approach, the odukal chadukal, how many loops should be there in every kamaka. No, these kinds of things you can really drill it very hard. If you haven't had that much experience singing padams, this seems like a very good approach. So that's the only introductory comment I wanted to say before.
Right.
Yeah.
And maybe one additional point, just a technical point about the composition itself. The composition starts from the Anupallavi. So mAnamE bhUshaNamu is the Anupallavi,
Like
and
several
then
padams.
like various other padams, and then the Pallavi line is mAnini, vinaVedA. Okay.
Yeah,
So I will get started with the Anupallavi Pallavi, and then Vivek, you can do the Charanam.
sounds good. And I'll mute myself so you can put the tambura on your side as well.
All right. Yeah, I have the tambura here. Can you hear it clearly? Okay.
Yeah, you can increase a little bit the tambura volume if you want. There we go. More than enough.
All right. mAnamE bhUshaNamu manavathulakella mAnamE bhUshaNamu manavathulakella I can't hear you.
Yeah, you're fine, Gokul. I only removed myself to put you center stage. It's okay. Yeah,
Okay.
don't worry.
So it felt like you suddenly disappeared.
No. Yeah, you're good. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll start again then.
Yeah, sure.
mAnamE bhUshaNamu manavathulakella mAnamE bhUshaNamu manavathulakella mAnamE bhUshaNamu manavathulakella mAnamE bhUshaNamu manavathulakella மானமெடலினவேனுகை பிராணமே மிட்டிக்கேலே மானமெடலினவேனுகை பிராணமே மிட்டிக்கேலே மான மெடலினவேனுகை பிராணமே மிட்டிக்கேலே மான மெடலினவேனுகை பிராணமே மிட்டிக்கேலே மான மெடலினவேனுகை ಪ್ರಾಣಮೆ ಮಿಟಿ ಕೇಳೆ ಮಾನ ಮೆಡಲಿನವೇನುಗೈ ಪ್ರಾಣಮೆ ಮಿಟಿ ಕೇಳೆ ಮಾನಿನಿ ವೀಣವೇದ ಮಂದ ಬುದ್ಧಿ ತೋಣೆ మాట్లాడగ యుంటి నే అతనితో నేను మాట్లాడగ యుంటి నే So that was the
Aha.
Anupallavi and the Pallavi. mAnamE bhUshaNamu. Pallavi line is the mAnini vinaVedA. So few things to note from the Anupallavi. mAnamE. So as you can see, the starting of this padam is very reminiscent of many other compositions. Akshaya Linga Vibho. So the approach is very similar. These padams, I don't exactly know the time frame when this particular padam was composed, whether it was before or after. I'm not sure, but it is true that this tune you'll find in many compositions. uh, Not only Muthuswami Dikshitar's Akshayalinga Vibho, even this Thyagaraja Swami's Manasu Swadhina. Manasu
Absolutely.
Swadhinamai, right? So that general structure is sort of like prevalent. And then later on, composers like Papanasam Shivan also have composed like that, right? Mahalakshmi Jaganmata. Okay, so this is a very standard tune in shankarAbharaNam,
Yeah.
starting tune for shankarAbharaNam, and this padam starts there. But one of the hallmarks of the starting of this padam is that maname.
Aha.
So those are things that one can take. Even the vibrato in ma. In fact, throughout the padam, you will see there are different types of madhyamam vibrato that are given. Ma na ma. So this is very much on ma. Ma na me. And then mani ni vinaVedA manda buddhi. So that is not
That's on
exactly
Ga.
ma, but ga ma, right?
Yeah.
Ditone matla. So the ma that comes from ga. So all the beautiful shades of shankarAbharaNam madhyamam are sort of like
Right.
uh, embedded in these lines. And then uh, of course, I think we should highlight that mAnamE bhur uh, mAnamE bhUshaNamu manava manava tulakella ಮಾನಮೆಡ ಮಾನಮೆಡ ಮಾನಮೆಡಲೀನ. So the timing of those sangatis, right? ಮಾನಮೆಡ ಮಾನ ಮಾನಮೆಡ
Aha.
ಲೀನವೇನುಗೈ ಪ್ರಾಣಮೆ ಮಿಟಿ ಕೇಳೆ. So that high thing that I was telling that we were discussing earlier, right? So just the relaxed way of singing these sangatis, miti, a little bit more vibrato, and then slowly going there. Kele, parida. So that approach of singing, that is what is the high that we
Relaxed
keep
approach.
mentioning in our episodes.
Yeah.
So what else are you enchanted by in these?
So there's so much here. So first of all, thanks. That is such a beautiful rendition. So இதுல வந்து I think generally Gokul, I think when we this may be an unfair thing to ask of you especially, but when we talk about these things, right? Like I want to also maybe show the alternative. How else, as opposed to what, right? So that we know the difference when we approach it.
Ah,
What is actually changing?
ah,
In the two. So what a I don't even want to say conventional approach. I just want to say like a more basic approach. Let's say
a more
much more
basic approach. Right.
approach.
That's a good way
What
of
might
putting
that
it.
sound like when we give some of these point out some of these details in this particular padantara or this particular style, or like let's say there's a high approach, right? Oh, high approach would be this, as opposed to like how might a more basic
Right.
approach sound like,
Right. Right.
right? Um,
I
yeah,
think, yeah, we have you can also probably talk about it. So first thing will be the basic approach will probably lie a lot on the beat. Mana mAnamE bhUshaNamu manavatulakella mAnamE bhUshaNamu. So this is the basic approach. So everything will fall on the beat. There will be no voice modulations, and then the anuswarams will be limited. The way of giving anuswarams will be different. So
that's right.
mAnamE bhUshaNamu. So even that anuswaram will be on the beat. Tam tam
Exactly. I was
1
going to talk
2.
about the placement of the anuswarams. How
Whereas
strange the placement of the anuswarams can be.
uh,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
whereas for in this approach, mAnamE pause. mAnamE bhUshaNamu sada. That way of giving anuswarams as double
Ah.
notes. It's a very Vainika approach. Like, people who play Veena, many Vainikas have followed that, including and not limited to our Guru KSN,
Right.
KS Narayanaswamy. His way of giving anuswarams is also like that, especially for ragams like sankarAbharaNam, Kalyani.
Aha.
Particularly like that, he will give.
bhUshaNamu versus
Uh,
bhUshaNamu.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And even that anuswaram, when you're going to the sa, in our approach, we try to give a slight voice modulation. So that also helps a lot in enhancing the beauty of the expression. bhUshaNamu. Instead of that, bhUshaNamu.
Aha.
And one other thing to note: once you go to sa, we don't hold on sa there. You drop slightly.
Exactly.
bhUshaNamu
Exactly.
manava. That manava also, the way we do the re is with modulation, and the type of modulation, it's not that it becomes light or anything like that, but you have to sort of like, you make a mild modulation to emphasize that gamakam a little. So mana manava manava versus manava tulakil la, pause and then la. So
Also
those
seems like
two
that re is
things.
like a little bit reduced. Just a little bit. And I think with the Anuswaram point, bhUshaNamu, that sa almost, you said you come down from the sa a little bit. That almost feels like there is a jantai going on there. Sa bhUshana Dani sa sa bhUshaNamu manavatulakella.
So when you sang, I realized that we should note two things. So one is that this is shana, that is an anuswaram. It's a definitive end, right? Which is very prevalent in sankarAbharaNam. We do that. The alternative, bhUshaNamu, that
Pa.
drop from there.
Pa.
You can't even define it. That's the beauty there.
Yeah.
That it should just drop there.
It's like a blank drop. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's an approach that is prevalent in these compositions and in this in this style in particular.
Yeah.
All that contributes to that, that vistaram, that high, taking the space, the relaxedness of the. So if you see, the kala pramanam is not all that slow. It's not that you're slowing down the overall kala pramanam of the singing, but rather it's these small things that you're exploring the space a little bit more and taking your time there, which contributes to um, giving the sense that maybe we are singing slow.
Right. I think what's happening is like on a very crude analysis, what is happening is like there's redistribution, right? You're taking from some places and giving to others,
Right.
right? Ma-ma-na-va. So what is happening there is mana. You're expanding. You're giving more there. You're giving more space there, and you're taking it away from na-va. That
Correct.
never you don't have to give it that fast in
Right.
the more basic approach, but it's taking here from here, giving here, taking from here. There's a secret dance going on under the surface that very often if you take the very basic approach, you don't actually have to think about all that.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So from my side, I think a couple of things I noticed. I actually wrote down. I can't remember exactly what I wanted to say. But money. Oh yeah, here. So மணினி அங்க ஒரு pause இருக்கு.
Yeah.
So மணினி, and that pause doesn't have to come on a straight note. It can come after like this questioning gamaka மணினி, and that ni reduces in volume as you go.
Right.
மணினி. It just fades out like that. It's
Right.
very mysterious. மணினி. அதுக்கப்புறம் where is that vinaVedA coming from? Sava is a
Exactly.
girl. It's that again. It faded out mysteriously and also starts mysteriously. மணினி vinaVedA. அதுக்கப்புறம் மந்த புத்தி தானே. அங்க ரீவா சாவா
Rida.
again mysteriously fades out. அதுக்கப்புறம் the other thing I wanted to say is மட்லடக அத்தனித நேனு மட்லடக. So I think this happens a lot in Akshaya Dingabo, happens in many sankarAbharaNam kritis, but that it could have just as easily, without taking away much from the composition, the basic approach could have said matla. That would have been totally fine. That is a
Correct.
totally defensible and totally normal sankarAbharaNam. But
Right.
in this type of like very nuanced, a little bit more advanced rendition, I would say, is like this ma maga maga
Maga.
ma
Exactly.
matla matla. Just adds so much, even though that note is barely audible.
Right.
Matla.
Matla. Exactly.
Aha.
So that maga starting.
Yeah.
Very
So I
good.
really wanted to highlight that. Actually, it comes in Akshilingabo also, right?
Right. And that is the reason for it comes in all those compositions is that our guru has taken things
true.
from here, and then it has
Right,
so
right, right.
there is a spillover, right? There is a spillover
Yeah.
benefit of learning all of this.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
likewise, we do similar phrases even in our Sri Kamalambikaya Kataksho.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Even
Even in that composition, we employ these techniques.
Maga, yeah, that very invisible
It's
ma.
very common.
in
It
the
is very
beginning.
common.
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful. So that's the other thing I wanted to highlight. அதுக்கப்புறம் எப்படி முடிக்கிறது? Yeah.
அப்புறம் ஒரு அனுஸ்வரம் கூட கொடுத்தா அழகா நே.
ஆஹா.
அந்த மாதிரி.
Yeah. Aha. Beautiful.
Maybe we
yeah.
should move to the.
That's pretty much what I had on the
Yeah.
Anupallavi and Pallavi.
Right.
So let
Let's
me
move to the charanam
attempt.
then.
Let me attempt the charanam.
Yeah.
இருகு பொருகு பார்த்த இத்தவுகனே நில்ஜி இறுகு பருகு வார்த்த itavugane 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 நில்ஜி சரசுனிதோ பொது சாலுபம் மண்டீனே சரசுனிதோ பொது சாலுபம் மண்டீனே சரசுனிதோ பொது சாலுபம் மண்டீனே சரசுனிதோ பொது சாலுபம் மண்டீனே மருகேல சேனடுல மடலு நேயினி மருகேல சேனடுல மடலு நேயினி மருகேல சேனடுல மடலு நேவிரி மருகேல சேனடுல மடலு நேவினி மருகேல சேனடுல மடலு நேவினி பெறவன பெறவன
பிரதுகீடு
பிரதுகீடு தெரகாய இக்கனேலே தெரவன 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 பிரதுகீடு தெரகாய இக்கனேலே மணினி வினவேத மல்த பூகுதேத்தனே மட்ல టీనే అతనితో నేను మాట్లాడగా టీనే
Very nice. So on the we have to keep in mind Marugela, that line. Marugela చేనడుల మడలు నే அந்த నే వీని ஸோ அது கண்டினியூஸா
மட மடலுனே
அந்த அசுரங்கள்லாம் கீப் இன் மைண்ட். அந்த நம்ம இந்த சிஸ்டம்ல வந்து மடலு நிலம் மடலு உடனே கொடுத்துரும்.
மடலுனே வீரி அருகேல
చేనడుల మడలు నే విని తెరకాయ తెరవాన బ్రతుకీడు తెరకాయ ఇక பாடிட்டே போகலாம். அது அவ்வளோ அது. ஸோ இதில் வந்து இந்த ஸ்டார்டிங் அதுதான் ரொம்ப இந்த சேனல்ல இல்லையா? இருகு பொருகு வார்த்த இத்தவுகனே மெஞ்சி இருகு அப்புறம் இருகு பொருகு வார்த்த ఇతవుగనే మెంచి ఇరుగు పొరుగు వార్త ఇతవుగనే మెంచి సరజునితో పొందు చాలు ஸோ சங்கராபரணத்திலே வந்து ஹோல்டிங் ஆன் தட் கா even for alapana or while doing naraval for lines that are near that panchamam, like samagana, sarojadharanetri or badari vanamula in nakshaling vibho. Many such there are many such lines, right? దీనబంధువని ఏమి నేరము శంకరాచార్యం పరమ వాదం
Rāga Sudha, yeah.
Rāga Sudha. So that Panchamam centric lines for Naraval, also while doing Alapana around the Panchamam region, this approach of like if you just take a step back and take out the not only the actual details of the technical sangatis and all that from this line that we just sang, Irugu Porugu line,
right?
Just that approach, the broad philosophical approach of holding on Panchamam, slowly going on to that Daivatam, and then showing that Nishadam in different ways, different ways of gliding from the Pa to Ma, those kinds of phrases and approach to Gamakams and Anuswarams can just open up endless possibilities, just infinite possibilities for Manodharmam while singing Ragam and while doing Naraval. Tadara
Vale.
So see, the in this approach, you can just keep singing and keep singing. You will not get bored. That is the beauty. Why don't you try a few phrases, just getting
Oh,
inspired?
put it. Um, Before that, I just want to say Irugu Porugu, just to underline that, where is the connection between that, what you just sang in Irugu Porugu, is like Irugu, first pa, Porugu, Magamapa, Vata, Sapa,
See,
Ita, Itavu,
Itauga.
Madava. Oh, so many different ways to come to pa. Itavuga ne magamapa yanchi madapa pa pamaga. அதுக்கப்புறம் நேச்சி இருக்கு கமப்பா. So many different routes to
Right.
go to pa.
And then that double Daivatam is so beautiful, no? Irugu, Porugu, Vata, Itauga, Itauga. Those
Aha.
different ways of singing. Adhe Mari, and the
Yeah.
next line. Sarazu,
Yeah.
Sarazuni, Sarazuni, to,
Yeah.
maga, to. See the ways of singing that maga, to, to,
Yeah.
to. அதுக்கெல்லாம் வித்தியாசம் இருக்கு பாத்தியா? So இதுல
Uh-huh.
வந்து நம்ம when you sing மனோதர்மம், you can
You can
take
show
the
the different varieties.
and show
Yeah,
the
since you
different.
put me on the spot, I need to sing that. So,
Hmm. Correct. So you can hold on pa a little bit like
Even more.
ah, and even that different ways of showing ma.
Uh-huh.
Sadara
Uh-huh.
na
Hmm.
sadara na
Hmm.
ma ba da ba ma
Hmm.
dari na 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 so that
Ah-ha-ha-ha-ha.
Gamakam based approach,
I see.
it
But you
can
want to stay on the pa among all the phrases, stay on pa for a long time, even within the phrase.
know the pa carve as much as possible.
Ah.
That is a very beautiful approach of in sankarAbharaNam. Now, one thing I want to highlight here, which I have been very deeply influenced by, is this. It's a very popular recording these days. T. Vishwasar singing that Viruttam.
Hmm.
He also explores this Panchamam. He does all. He'll do a little bit of all of this, and then
Singing.
suddenly, yeah, and he's doing Viruttam. Okay, and he'll give all of these. Suddenly, he will show one flat nishadam, which is so amazing. Tadara, tadara, na, 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 na. He'll do that. And nishadam வந்து ஒரு ஃபிளாட் நிஷாதம் ஒரு 2 தரம் காமிச்சா ரொம்ப அழகா இருக்கும். அது அவரோட வே ஆஃப் exploring all the possibilities. அது கண்டிப்பா students of music who want to understand the depths of sankarAbharaNam should definitely listen to that record. பன்னேன் உனக்கான
என்னது?
பன்னேன்னு ஒரு
பண்ணேன் உனக்கான.
he has
Yeah, we'll try to put a link in the show notes if it's available
yeah.
in YouTube.
yeah
Yeah, amazing. Actually, I'm a huge advocate of that flat knee. Of course, you can't overdo it, but I think it's really beautiful when you show that in sankarAbharaNam. Couple of things I wanted to say in this. Irugu parugu. So I already went over how so many phrases end in pa. In that, it's a small study in pa itself. Also, when you were singing, you talked about how many ma's. Actually, ma can also be nyasa. Pa can also be nyasa. Nyasa means ending note in the.
Right.
How do you
And
balance? Actually, that might be a total tangent.
You can give the carways on the ma a little bit more. So, na, na, so few loops you can give to show the beauty. And
like that, yeah.
And then the hallmark of our guru style of singing. Tadara, na, ma, 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 ma. So going to that pa, like as you're going to the ma itself, you go to the pa. And that is another, you can explore that beauty.
Oh my god, that reminds me of this phrase in Neelambari. Actually, we shouldn't get distracted.
No, don't go to Neelambari.
It ends in that.
Yeah.
But after, basically the substructure is the same, which is like you have this gamaka that ends in
the next
a flat note. A flat note. Yeah.
Correct.
Like, and you can make it even more seamless.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So you can make it, the making that, going to that pa in a seamless fashion, that can be explored. And so we demonstrated, how the phrases from this line can be taken, and you can get inspired and sing raga alapana. Likewise, if you start doing naraval, again the possibilities are endless. So especially if it is a composition in miSra cApu, like Akshay Linga, with the line in Panchamam, then oh my gosh,
so close. Yeah,
so close. Badari vana mula naika sahita badari vana mula naika sagita badari vanamula naika sagita badari vanamula. That pa is so enticing in sankarAbharaNam.
Yeah, it's also interesting how badari vana is symmetrical in the same way. Irugu porugu, irugu porugu, badari vana. Badari vana. Badari vana. It's very parallel. It's pretty parallel. Yeah.
Correct. So you can take a lot from this composition for those purposes as well.
So in this same line, there are a couple of other things I wanted to highlight. So itavu, first of all, that the itself is really beautiful, as it has been all along in this copy.
Right.
இத்தவுக இத்தவு இல்ல
Correct.
இத்தவுக அது obviously that is there in everything, but all this particular style, but இத்தவுக that is also actually an example of that maga we were talking about with
Exactly.
matlada, but it is actually not the starting of the word. It is between the phrase they have given that
Right.
matlada.
Right. Also,
இத்தவுக
correct. And another thing
yeah.
you just highlighted as you were singing, I noted the different ways of singing ma. I demonstrated, right?
Uh-huh.
Ma tari. Okay, those things, and also the flatter way. Itavugane maga
Baba. Aha. Right.
அதெல்லாம் இருக்கு. கமப இருகு அந்த சின்ன ஒரு கமகம். அப்பா நிறைய
So much here. Yeah.
so much to be taken from this, just these 2-3 lines of the
Right.
composition.
So I had three more things. One, maga, right? Actually, it comes in Pomantine, maybe we can explore. So that one of my notes was like, chalu. First, chalu, where is it coming from? Again, mysteriously, right? Chalu pom mantine. Can you sing that once? Pomantine.
சலூப்பும் மண்டீனே
Aha.
சலூப்பும் மண்டீனே
Ah, ha, 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 ha.
மக மக.
Yeah.
So,
So that pa, the swara on top of pa, it could be da, it could be ni, right? Either po, mar, right? It's an example of the closure, perhaps.
exactly.
Mar, but it is also not clear which note that is, right?
Right.
Mar, it could be the or ni, right?
Correct. Correct.
Very soft, and the tine, like basically. So that type of ma is the more kampitam on the ma itself, rather
Right.
than
Right.
from ga or mixture of
Correct.
ga and ma, that kind of thing.
And slowly transitioning to pa. So that adds to the aesthetic way of seamlessly flowing to that next one.
Chalu po martine. அது ஒன்று. அதுக்கப்புறம் chalu po martine. The other is like, actually Brindama actually does a lot of this in her Viritam. I've done one session on Viritam before, that Kanduga Madakariya Viritam. Similarly, basically both types of mass can be right next to each other, right? So the that ma is there. That ma is there. They're all right next to each other. There's one or two swaras in the middle.
Right.
Right? But
Right.
everything else is actually together. All three types of swaras. We get a lot of this in like different Kamalamba kritis also, where you know, both types of bars will be right next to each other.
Right.
Pakatla it will be there. Yeah,
Right.
very, very cool. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So that's pretty much what I had. So anything. After that, it obviously comes in the. Can you sing that?
Terakaya ikane.
Not that one. The one with. The one that you corrected me before.
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
Chenadula.
Yeah. Marugela Chenadula Madalu Ne Vini Marugela Chenadula Madalu Ne Vini. அப்படி போறது.
Beautiful. So அதுல வந்து நட்டுல basically drops off from the sa, like we talked about. செதறி போறாப்ல இருக்குது.
Yeah, and also the end, and the phrase ends on da. It is not very
Not as
common
common.
in
Right, right, right.
classical. So that is something to
Yeah.
you to be
And
take.
finally,
Ne, vi,
we-
ni.
ne- vini- ye-
Correct.
That's really, really beautiful.
Yeah.
The thing I wanted to say, Gokul, finally, this ma, we were talking about giving the kampitam on the ma itself rather than on the ga and the ga ma mixture. Would you say that's fairly unique to this, or this either patantara or the style or something like that, or do you
What
do you do you
example?
find it anywhere? Uh,
So what example are you? What phrase?
That ma is
Uh,
not coming from ga. I think that seems, at least in your approach, it seems fairly unique. I don't encounter it as
yeah,
much in.
I have not seen that way, that approach.
Yeah.
I mean, that particular phrasing I have not seen in other or heard in other compositions. Um,
I don't know if that it also comes there.
right.
So
Hmm.
basically, I wanted to transition in talking about. So this seems very unique. Okay, this particular phrase, I
Right.
haven't heard it a lot outside of your approach, and obviously, I think we've heard it in Brindama sometimes. Obviously, she has a big focus on kampitam on the note. Sometimes you can hear it in other ragas also, including Bhairavi actually. But I just want to say, like, how did you come to this style? Maybe if I can transition to just asking about how you chanced upon this. Like, I think I learned a lot of these aesthetics from you, but specifically this one, like, to excavate that from what you hear, like, to okay, Brindama and the Mari Padra, we need to just like replicate it, okay, or Kalyani Mami sings something like this, okay, we need to replicate it. But how did you notice it, and what was your journey in, like, oh, I want to go learn this. A, B, I noticed it, and C, this is how do you replicate it? Like, those three things. Can you talk a little bit about how you came to that, how you noticed it, and how people should go about trying to replicate it?
Right. So
Yeah,
first off, I think we have to keep in mind that no one can replicate any other musician.
sure,
So
sure.
that is one thing you have to like just.
Right,
And if anyone is claiming to replicate any musician, then
right,
I think there is a problem, because
right,
we are all humans. We have our own limitations, our voice structures,
right,
facial structures, jaw structures. Everything will change with all of that, right?
right.
So with that, we should that is
Yeah, yeah. More
that is
like
not an.
learn rather than
Yeah,
replicate.
yeah.
It is learn.
And
Yeah.
then, yeah, so when we say we are learning from someone, I think the goal should be that just the goal should be to take the nectar from whatever is being sung. And in that respect, our guru Kalyani Mami was very helpful, in the sense that she would actually explain to me the different, like just you said, what is the normal approach, what is the special about this approach.
Right.
So a lot of these conversations we have had in class
Of
itself,
course. Yeah.
the way of giving vibrato, way of giving anuswarams, and so forth. So that was one very good source of just being able to learn. And then, of course, after a point in time, any musician has to sort of like sit down and like sort of contemplate things in their own mind, right? So they have to work out things in their own mind, and see how these different ways of singing and these different aesthetics fit together, because ultimately you want to make sure, Vivek, that when a person is singing, it doesn't come across as style X versus style Y versus style Z. That என்ன சொல்றது, in Tamil they say பாலும் தண்ணியும் தனித்தனியா தெரியக்கூடாது.
Aha. Oh. Aha.
It should
It
just
comes
be
very close
one.
because sorry.
It should be one wholesome, right?
Right,
So
right.
everything feeds off of each other. So this approach, regardless of whether you are singing let's say pallavi, or you are
Right.
singing padam, or you are singing composition, it has to come together. And that is the important message from uh, the teachings of our guru, as well as my uncle also. So if you look at
Your uncle
their journeys,
Nevili
yeah,
Santana Gopalan sir.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and if you look at their musical journeys, they have learned from multiple
Of
stalwarts.
course.
Okay, for example, our guru, Kalyani Sharma Mami, has learned from Shamangudi. She has learned from K.S. Narayanaswamy sir. She has learned from Brindamma.
Right.
And in the university, she has also learned from
C.S. Krishna
stalwarts like
here.
C.S. Krishna Iyer, who was the first guru of K.V. Narayanaswamy.
Of course.
So all of those different approaches, and then everything has sort of like come together, right? There was an amalgamation, and what we got from her is that amalgamated product, right? So that is what we have to keep in mind. And it is very interesting, I have had many conversations with our guru, and never has she pointed out this is how Shamangudi would sing. Like you won't have that. So, there won't be a distinction between uh, what she learned from Shamangudi sir or from C.S. Krishna Iyer or
Sure.
from Brindamma. Everything will have the same underlying principles and concepts being implemented there.
Which is actually her underlying principles and concepts that are
Exactly.
integrating everything.
That is integrating
Right.
everything. And the same thing with my uncle also.
Right.
So when you listen to my uncle, there is a you'll find a unique, like a nice blend of um, approaches from Seshagopalan sir, the things he has learned from his first previous gurus. One of them was a student of Alathur brothers, and then later on, Shankara Mama, and also there is a unique blend of all of that, right? So you won't be able to say, okay, this is Seshagopalan sir singing, and this is like Shankara sir
Sure. Of course.
approach and all that. So that I think we have to sort of keep in mind. So going back to your question of like how do you sort of like work it out over time. The thing is, you have to keep singing. I think that's the key. That is there is no other way out. Like just keep singing and singing and singing. In fact, one of my very 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 first gurus, when I learned basic Sarigama Padani, I first learned from my grandmother, and then for a brief period I had gone because I wouldn't sit with my grandmother, so I went to another teacher. His name was MS Shankar. So the Shankaran sir, he used to tell me, Sanjeev, we used to call him Sanjeevi Shankaran. I don't know why Sanjeevi Shankaran, but anyway, but Shankaran Mama. And he used to tell me, and I was a kid, right, like 8 or 9 years old. So he used to tell me you should practice like a cow, like the rumination of a cow.
Yeah. Chew the
So
cud. Yeah.
whatever is being taught here, listen to it, just take it and digest it in. So focus on repeating and replicating, as you mentioned, but go back home and then bring it out and keep chewing on it.
Yeah.
So, and that I think is really important. And in our present day context, it requires time. One has to, like, spend the time, first learn a composition, and it should really not be for the sake of learning. Like, you should just not do, okay, I finished learning this composition, oh, next time I'm doing this. If that is approach to learning compositions, I feel like we are missing out a lot, because later we have to go back and then like sort of ruminate on them, keep thinking about, okay, what are the beautiful things that you can bring out in your own voice. How can certain gamakams be sung in a way that does not harm what you have learned but embellishes it further. So those things, one has to I think sit and do.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. I think so. That's really interesting. So for example, this closure of the throat thing. Would Mami actually, like you mentioned, Mami would sometimes point out, right? Like explicitly tell you, oh, இந்த மாதிரி பாடலாம், இந்த மாதிரி இதுவும் actually one of Mami's favorite things to say is like, she'll sing one way and then she'll show the other way and then she's like, அதுவும் தப்பு இல்ல. She'll always say that,
Exactly,
there's nothing wrong with this. This is also good. This is also good. And she'll be like, no, but this is the difference. I think
Right.
the primary thing is to show you what is available. Right? And then
Right.
what you can do with your voice and what you want to do and what is appropriate for that particular spot. All that, of course, that has to come from within. But Mami's task there was really to show, oh, this is available and this is this padam, for example.
Exactly.
But for example, like this closing of the throat thing, right? Did Mami actually explicitly teach you that?
I don't remember now. If
No,
you
right?
ask me, I probably won't remember that. It's probably part of rumination process, right?
Okay, interesting.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
I remember you telling me this like 2012 probably, or 20, yeah, something like that, some 2012 2013 time frame.
right,
You told me that, and you were like, I call it this. I noticed mommy does this, and it felt to me that you had noticed this particular thing. And that is always what's really fascinating. Of course, mommy சொல்றது ஒன்று இருக்கு. Like what mommy says is one thing, right? Like, and then there is this rumination process that you're describing, where
right,
I feel like you have taken some you've noticed some things that are perhaps under the surface, or you've given words or language to them, right? And part of what I'm trying to do in this podcast, like, to just understand how, all this wealth that is there, that's under the surface, that
right,
very
right,
often it doesn't, it doesn't get, there's not a language to discuss it.
right,
And I
right,
think some great contributions that we can do is, like, as we learn, give the language to what we did, so that others can come and then, like, also see, oh, who has gone on this journey before? Okay, they have left some guideposts, like, oh, you
correct,
should do it like this, close the throat, oh, okay. And then this that is so different from the other one. Actually, in you and
right,
Kamal, you were discussing this in Atana, I believe.
right,
And we basically the same point, right? Giving from Ga is very different from giving from Ma, right? And
right,
I haven't, at least in sankarAbharaNam, I haven't heard that a lot. And so leaving these guideposts, having a language for it, giving some direction to the people who come after you, right? And even for yourself, like, to document, oh, this is how we give. Abdina. So that's one of the reasons I'm even doing this, to
right,
capture all
right.
that somewhere, so that we can
And
sit down and think about it and
right, right. And
chew
one
the cud.
thing,
Yeah.
yeah, while this is to be noted as maybe useful, hopefully useful for others, we should also note that this is not the first time people are actually doing it,
Of course.
or have made attempts to document some of these ideas. I want to note at least two um references or people that have actually done a lot of service in documenting some of these nuances. One is T. Vishwasar. It is unbelievable. If you get a hold on T. Vishwasar's notations, it's unbelievable. He has actually tried to notate every single thing. Because back in the day, during his times, recordings were not a thing. They were slowly coming in, and he did use some recordings to
Right.
document Pathantarams and all that. But in addition, he used very detailed notations, and especially that came in very handy when he wanted to transfer it to um, people of other cultures and
Right.
ethnicities coming to learn from him with no background in our system. So that is one. The other one, there is a very nice lecture demonstration by Dr. S. Soumya, uh, who has given a lecture demonstration on how these padams and javlis are sung and the nuances in them. So there she highlights some of those things that we were discussing earlier about the vibrato and the anuswaram, double note anuswaram. All those things have been highlighted as part of that series, as part of that particular lecture as well. So that is a very useful resource for students to go
Students
to. And
specifically. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And the other, and just going back generally about how do you um, sort of like learn from a senior musician and all that. So my observation about at least myself, and I think in general, is that, and this is again, I'm just repeating what has been said before. If you learn using recordings in class, I think it disturbs your attention somehow, because there is always there is something going back in the back of your mind that, okay, I have, I can go back and refer to it again. Whereas if you don't have a recording, it makes a big difference in the amount of attention you place. And this is even even our guru Kalyani Mama
Of
used to
course.
say, like, she would say, I can. So when we would sing a padam, she would say, I can actually now remember, I can visualize Brindama in front of me the day she taught me this. So that's how she would explain it, because she also paid that much attention to the learning. And
Right.
I think that's a very important aspect. um, and it comes from both, right, the teacher and the student. Like, you have to, even as a teacher, when you're teaching it, you have to have some patience to transfer these things, because it takes time. It takes time. And as a student, we have to make sure that we are not testing the patience of the teacher,
Right.
because I think I've told this to you sometime when. So I used to, Mama is a good friend of everyone. Right? He
Of
speaks
course.
openly. So I've spent some time with him.
Nataraj Sharma Mama. Yeah.
Uh,
Just for those listening.
so I spent some time with him when we were in Coimbatore. So I had gone to Coimbatore where mommy was staying for a few weeks, and I stayed with them, mama and mommy, for almost a month. And so every day, mama and I would go for a walk, and he would tell me all old stories about Bombay Music Circle, how it used to be, how competitive it used to be,
Ah.
and all that. So once he told me that in order to teach me the padams, mommy apparently I never knew that, and mama told me. So do you know, Gokul, before teaching you, she starts writing notation early in the morning at 8 o'clock, and if it is Gokul's class, then she's like, she rewrites the notation, like she has already some notations, rough notations written. She rewrites them, or she will overwrite. And I've seen this personally in some of her notation books. She would have, like, whatever she has written many years ago, she will like again write on it on the day of teaching, and she'll have like practiced it for many hours together before uh, before I showed up. Around, class was usually 4 o'clock, I would come at 3 because I wanted to spend extra 1 hour. And then she would know that also, and so she'll be ready by then. So that is the amount of like effort and commitment that the teacher also puts in to be able to share.
Aha.
And so the least we can do, after having gotten all this wealth and treasure, is to make sure that we are being true to what has been taken.
Right.
um, yeah, and passing it on with integrity, singing
Aha.
and passing it on with integrity. I think that's the, otherwise, for any human, the conscience will hurt, honestly, after all putting all that effort.
Right. Aha. That's what a blessing. What a beautiful story. Thanks for sharing that. Aha. Mommy's dedication and your dedication is just beautiful, beautiful to hear.
No, I
And
mean, my dedication is nothing in front of mommy's,
of
and
course,
the way it all worked out. So
yeah,
it's all her blessing, and that we are continuing to sing these
yeah,
compositions.
it's a huge, yeah, and huge blessing for me to, you know, learn that from you. So thank you as well for that.
And
Um,
the other thing about, I was another point I wanted to make very quickly, about the seamlessness of the different approaches. So when you learn from different people,
Integration, yeah,
the integration, amalgamation of everything. Very interesting, anecdote. You might remember this, Vivek. So we learned together this Vidhi
right,
in Yamuna Kalyani, right? You remember, and Mami has said that. So using T.K. Govindarao sir's notation,
that's
it
right.
has been set. And if you remember, I don't remember if you were in that class or anyway.
I
She
was
said,
definitely in the
when you
class. Yeah.
no, when we learned it, and then after that, I don't remember anyway. So then she mentioned very clearly, இதை பாடும்பொழுது நீ அதிநீப்பையை நினைச்சு பாடு அப்படின்னு.
Ha 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 ha. Ah.
Which means what? When she said it, she has kept that Yamuna Kalyani flavor of Adinipai. Why? And you can see that in the
Absolutely.
phrases.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
For the listeners, so what Gokul said is like, think about Adini Pai when you sing um, Vidhi Shakradulu, which is what Mami said. Yeah. Essentially, to
And
illustrate that it is that particular flavor of Ramuna Kalyani,
right,
but it is also that is the intention, the original intention of how she said it.
right,
Right?
right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And likewise for any of the Kamalamba Navavarna Kritis also that we sing, the embellishment she would give is very similar to what you would do in a padam. So especially after, like, I learned padams like Pusadharamu and Yar Poi Solluvar and all that. Then Kamalambike, for example, when I learned from Mami, the way of singing that one, Mahaganapatim Vande, then naturally, that approach, the gamakam style, the proportion of the gamakams, anuswarams, those things, that udukal chedukal sort of like uh, get
I mean,
inculcated
they
here.
naturally get
Yeah,
incorporated,
yeah,
integrated.
exactly.
Actually, I asked Mami the same question. very similar. Like, Mami, these approaches are, in some ways when you think about them, right, they're very diametrically opposed, right? Some of them are very by the book, and some of them are more like high and more relaxed and seamless, almost mysterious. Like, how did you integrate all that? And Mami's answer is like they all also learn from each other sometimes. They all
Exactly.
learn from, essentially, like, not to see it as diametrically opposed, but to see imagine that they came from the same source and then do it, right? Which
Right.
is what you're kind of hinting at here, which is like,
Right.
imagine that they're coming from,
Yeah.
எல்லாம்
And
ஒரே sourceலேருந்து வராப்புல, like, and
and
then
there
it'll
is
naturally get incorporated. Yeah.
yeah, and there is no topic of even imagining. That is the fact. The source is the supreme truth from where everything that one supreme from where everything all the good stuff has come out, right? So there is no doubt about it. And that Advaitic view Mami had, um, when and it also took a lot of maturity to be able to do that, in the sense that she learned from Narayana Swami sir while also learning from Brindama occasionally, and
It couldn't have
also
been easy, to be honest with you.
it was not
It could
easy.
not have been easy. They're very fundamental. Like, on the surface, it looks like very diametrically opposed. Like, there's this very focused on the, phraseology of the raga. When I say phraseology, I mean swara. Like, the swaras should be like this. In Begada, you don't want the darisani to come. Like, those kinds of that approach on one end, and on the other end, you have like Pratimadimam can come in Paras approach, right? That, how do you reconcile that? It couldn't have
Exactly.
been easy, and Mami has done
Exactly.
all that
It's not
work
at
for
all easy.
us,
Exactly.
right? Yeah. Hmm.
And she's she and also there are many other people who senior musicians, who are examples for us, for how to not get disturbed by these differences in musicians. So
Right.
musicians are different and music is different.
Right.
So being able to separate the two
Hmm.
is very important.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely. But this has been a great, great, great discussion. So, yeah, thanks so much for spending all this time with me, Gokul, today.
yeah, absolutely, very happy
Yeah.
to do this, Vivek. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. And then we'll continue next time. So until next time, thanks everyone for listening, and keep listening, and share with your friends. Until next time, thank you.